It's Central Valley Business. I'm your host, Steve Walling. My guest for this segment is Shera Rodrick from the Underground Garden. Shera, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve.
It's we were talking beforehand, and this is one of those places here that I haven't ever actually. I drive by it not infrequently, but one of these days I want to go. It has really intrigued me. But you're here to tell us about it.
I am, yes, and you're not the only one. Here in Fresno, people do tend to just drive right on by on Shaw Avenue, coming off the 99, and it doesn't look like a whole lot from ground level, but that's because all of the interesting stuff is underground.
Shera, how long have you been with the gardens now?
I've been with them for about 6 years.
About 6 years.
Yes.
What brought you to them initially?
I started out as a tour guide there.
Okay.
We do guided tours at the Underground Gardens, and I just happened to know the person that was looking for tour guides. She thought I'd be a great fit, so I came out and I learned the history, and I loved it so much that I stuck around.
Oh, great. So let's talk about the history. How did this place end up being here?
So it all started with a man named Baldassare Forestiere, and he was a Sicilian immigrant that came to America in the early 1900s.
Okay.
And his goal was to create a citrus empire. And he thought, well, I'm going to go to the San Joaquin Valley. The land is a good price. A lot of people are doing agriculture there.
Right.
So he bought 80 acres of land, and he was so excited to get started. But then he found out that that land was full of hardpan. And I think here in Fresno, we're pretty familiar with hardpan, sedimentary rock.
Right.
Yes, tough stuff. He had about 2 to 5 feet of hardpan throughout his entire plot of land.
Oh.
Not good for citrus.
No, it's not.
And then he experienced summer here in Fresno. That was not something he had known about. He didn't know it was going to get over 100 degrees every day.
And air conditioning wasn't quite what it is
Not in
today.
1906. No, definitely not. So he started trying to think of ways to get out of the heat, and the idea was to go underground. In Sicily, cellars were a very common thing.
Right.
So his first thought was dig a cellar and just have, a chair down there and go down there at the end of the day, escape the heat.
Right.
But he was so inspired by it that he decided to make his entire home underground. So he kept digging and developing, and then he realized that he could probably make his citrus trees grow underground. So he started doing that. We still have some of those original trees from 1906, over 100 years old, orange trees that are still producing the most delicious oranges I've ever tasted.
Well, how wonderful.
It's really amazing.
So he did this now. How big did this end up being?
So we're not sure how big it was in its entirety, but Baldassare worked on it for 40 years. And he never documented everything that he did, but we know that it was at least 10 acres of excavated land.
Really? That big?
Yes, at least 10, possibly more to 15 or 20 acres, because we know that he had about 10 in the first 20 years or so of working down there.
Now, how big is it today?
Today we have about 5 acres left.
About 5 acres.
We have lost some of it over the years. Being in Highway City, the area has developed quite a bit. So we have 5 acres, and we take our guests on about 2.5 acres during their hour with us.
Well, that's great.
It's amazing.
Now, how long has it been open to the public?
It's really been on and off since the 50s, but right now it is actually owned by Baldassare's great nieces.
Really?
Yes.
So it's still in the family?
It's still in the family, yes.
That's cool.
His nephew, who is turning 90 next year, he owns the property, and then his 2 daughters run the business aspects of it. So they've been running it since the early 2000s.
And what's the highlight of the tour?
The highlight, well, during the summertime is really getting out of that heat. And it's amazing because it is a natural air conditioning. He was able to figure out how to place all the tunnels and courtyards to push the air through the entire time.
Really?
So it's not dark and musty. There's skylights bringing beautiful light in, but you have these natural breezes flowing through. But I think the real highlight is that Lemons to Lemonade story.
Yeah.
Finding out about this man who came here, he had a dream, and he struggled, he hit those obstacles, but
he found a way to overcome.
He found a way to overcome, and he found a new dream.
Yeah. And in the end, he was pretty successful, wasn't he?
I think so. I mean, we're still showing it to people 111 years later, so I would say so.
So for our people that live here in the area that
Yes.
have not had the opportunity to come up, what would you tell them about coming? What would they want to find when they come there? What works for them?
Well, I think the real draw is seeing the individuality of Fresno. This is something that you're not going to find anywhere else in the world. And so coming out here, you're really seeing this hidden gem, this heritage of our city. And I think that is so special. And it's something that we all should take the time to do, is find those hidden gems in our city.
That's great. Now, do you have a web page for the gardens?
We do, yes, undergroundgardens.com. And we do tours Wednesday through Sunday all throughout the summer up until October. We'll be having Wednesday through Sunday. First tour of the day is 10 a.m. Last tour is 4 p.m. We do them at the top of each hour. So folks just need to get there about 15 minutes before the tour. Pretty simple.
Sure, I got to ask you, though. Okay, at the end of the tour season,
Yes.
we're getting obviously into the rainy season.
Yes.
How does that work in the gardens?
So Baldessari thought of that as well. He
Yeah.
actually set up drainage systems all throughout the gardens, mostly by building the rooms on a bit of a grade. And so he put sump pits in strategic areas. So when it rains down there, all of our water flows down into the sump pits. And when he was living there, he would reuse that water for other things. Now, today we just drain it out, but we do close in the wintertime just because it gets so slippery down there. We don't flood, but it gets pretty slippery in the winter.
That sounds like I'm
He's
going
a
to have to
clever
make
man.
a point. of
You
getting
have
out
to.
there.
Make it on out.
All
It's really very special.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Hopefully, I'll see you soon.
Yes, I
You
hope
got to get
so.
out there. What's the webpage again?
Undergroundgardens.com.
Got a Facebook page?
We have a Facebook page, yes, Forestiere Underground Gardens, and we do also have an Instagram page, Forestiere Underground Gardens. So
Got to
look for
get out
us.
there and see it, folks.
Yes.
It's a great monument to a man with a creative consciousness and a desire to overcome, and he did it. It's
Absolutely.
wonderful. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you when we come back.